Hey Waffle Gang, I do hope you are well. My name is Mark and today we're checking out some more Reddit stories, and if you do love a Reddit story, why not consider hitting that like, subscribe, maybe that notification bell too. Let's crack on with today's first story. Much love, guys. Now, today's first story comes from Julie East from the Am I the Arsehole Here subreddit. And it says, Am I the Arsehole Here for telling my sister-in-law that a strictly confidential information had already been leaked by her own mother, which caused a massive family fight. My sister-in-law holds a political office in the municipality where we live. During a conversation, she confided in me a strictly confidential piece of information on the condition that I would not tell anyone, not even my partner, her brother. However, she also told me that she had shared it with her mum, my mother-in-law, who was likewise not supposed to pass it on. So for 4 days, the only people who were meant to keep this to themselves were my mother-in-law and me. On the 4th day, today, there was going to be a meeting with people concerned, and the information would be shared with them anyway. After that, it could also be published within the family. So I promised her I would keep the information to myself, which I did. Edit to add, it was a secret connected to a political position, but not top secret. A strategic one that needed to be confidential for a couple of days. Another edit and small clarification. The commenter, Houndstooth Reader, gave a good example of such a secret that I would like to quote. It's her secret though. Think for example, I'm announcing my retirement Tuesday, or I'm announcing my bid for the county council this week. The sister-in-law's own news, but not to be shared into a certain date, after the involved parties all know. It makes sense that she might want to talk to close friends or family about her own decisions, but doesn't want the word to get around too soon. So this is not about strictly confidential information whose disclosure would risk her position, or even cause her to break an oath or the law, but it does have an impact on the community and the political environment. The day after our conversation, my partner, her brother, approached me and told me he had a secret piece of information to share. At first, I didn't react. He kept talking and it quickly became clear that he was referring to that exact secret. I interrupted him and said that I was already aware of it, without specifying what it was about, and then asked him where he'd gotten the information, and he said that his mother had told him. A few hours later, my sister-in-law came to visit, and I let her know that unfortunately her mother had passed the secret on. She confronted her and it led to a huge argument. After that, my partner confronted me and blamed me for the entire situation. He says the family is now in conflict because I didn't keep my mouth shut and told my sister-in-law that the secret had been shared. It's also important to mention that during the confrontation, my mother-in-law lied. First, she claimed she hadn't told him anything. Then she said that her husband, their father, who, by the way, was not supposed to know either, had probably told him. Then she accused me of having told him. Now, I'm in a fight with my partner because he gave me confidential information that I wasn't supposed to pass on, but I informed the original source of that confidential information that it had been shared. So basically, my partner says I'm the arsehole because he told me the secret I ran to sister-in-law, the source. Am I the arsehole for feeling responsible to let my sister-in-law know that the information had been spread, which ultimately caused a huge fight? I prefer not to have a discussion about whether it was responsible of my sister-in-law to put me in this situation and tell me the secret. She doesn't have many people to talk to, and she knows she can trust me. Sometimes you have to talk to someone and share information in order to relieve pressure. I'm not sure why everyone's turning this back around on you. You simply kept the secret and let her know her secret has been leaked, which was already circulating before what sounded like her crucial meeting. And it just seems like mother-in-law is pointing at everyone but herself, first blaming the husband, then pointing the finger at OP. She knows she's guilty in this, and she's just trying to deflect. I think all OP did in this was keep the secret, protected it, and then protected the owner of the secret afterwards. A commenter said to OP, they're all making this about you to deflect their shenanigans. Does husband think you really didn't know, and when he told you, it was you who spread the news? If that's the case, they're ganging up on you because they suck. OP, you're the only character in this whole farce who had integrity. But when mother-in-law told her sonny boy, she swore him to secrecy and he ran home to shout it to you. They are the arseholes. OP says he thought I didn't know. He's mad because I broke his trust by letting the source know a secret was shared by mother-in-law. Commenter says, how does the sister-in-law feel? Does she appreciate that you held the secret, or is she being silent? I feel like she should be defending you as the only person who did not technically blab. You told her that a secret had been blabbed. Since you already knew about the secret, that should have been a safe thing to do. OP says no. We had a long talk and she believes me. She realized her mum was lying when she changed her story the second time. She couldn't defend me to her brother because they haven't talked yet. The only person he's argued with so far is me. Opie then responded to a comment about her mother-in-law forcing her to tell sister-in-law without consulting with her partner, and then says, well, indirectly she did. She wasn't supposed to tell anyone. She told father-in-law and son instantly, betraying her daughter. Her actions put me into the crossfire, and I had to make a decision. I based my next step on morality, a loyalty on the promise I made, not on loyalty to my partner who first wasn't supposed to know, and second also decided to share the secret info. I was put in a difficult spot, and I would have lost anyway, even if I decided differently. Another commenter says not the arsehole for telling her someone leaked the info. However, if this was related to her work and she is meant to be keeping the info secret, you might have a moral and ethical duty to report her for telling anyone the info. I know you don't want to have that discussion, but she very likely broke an actual sworn oath relating to keeping secret info secret and breached the duties of her office. That's a far bigger issue than a family spat. Opie says, no, she didn't, but thank you for your input. Commenter says, quoting, my partner confronted me and blamed me for the entire situation, then says, I think it's pretty obvious that the family is in conflict because his mother couldn't keep her mouth shut. You caught her and dobbed her in. If she'd kept sister-in-law's confidence in the first place, then there wouldn't be anything to have a conflict about. Opie says, that's what I'm thinking. Commenter says, sit with that for a while. Your partner is siding with his mother against you. Is this a one-time thing or a pattern? Opie says, a pattern, I'm afraid. Commenter says, is your husband aware that he is part of the problem? Your sister-in-law was the first wrong person. She wouldn't have said to anyone. Then she told her mother, who told her husband, and her son, who told you. There's too much gossip in this family. Your husband is being too much of a mama's boy from my perspective, and he'd rather blame you than see his mum as the real wrong one. Opie says this is exactly the way I see it actually. Opie then responds to a comment regarding the possibility of a partner being conditioned his entire life to keep mother-in-law happy, and sister-in-law is likely to be fed up with mother-in-law not being able to keep information to herself. And Opie says, well, you're hitting the nail right on the head. Afterwards, she let me know as kind of a test to see if she could trust her. And now mother-in-law says everybody is making a mountain out of a molehill. Someone asks OP how long she's been with her partner. OP says, I'm 13 years in. It's hard. And then said, oh, is there a misunderstanding here? I'm not 13 years of age. I'm 13 years in a relationship. Jeez. So OP did come in with an update and said, update. Business as usual, as if nothing happened between my partner and me. Smiles, small talk, good mood. That's how conflict resolution always works here. Nothing gets resolved. It gets swept under the rug and ignored until it's thrown back in your face in the next tense situation. So anyone who thinks I didn't take my loyalty towards him seriously and that my poor hubby must be deeply hurt isn't entirely right. It's difficult to include all the background details in an Am I the Arsehole Here post, but I will say this much. His loyalty towards me has always come last, whether it was about keeping promises, keeping secrets, or being faithful. I'm not saying this was an act of revenge for his behavior, but it certainly influenced my decision on a subconscious level. Or rather, it's probably the reason why my promise to his sister mattered to me, which I didn't take my lack of loyalty towards him into consideration. Yesterday, after 2 missed calls from my mother-in-law, I sent her a message telling her that I would not be discussing this situation any further. I think that would only create more room for arguments, and I simply don't have the energy for it. For years, I've suspected that I'm dealing with narcissists, my mother-in-law and her son. His sister, on the other hand, takes after her father. She's rather quiet, trustworthy, and handles things calmly. We'll see how this unfolds. However, my sister-in-law has already let me know that she intends to draw her own consequences or conclusions and distance herself from the family in the near future. Guess who will be held responsible for that? And there was a lot of comments after this one asking OP, why are you still with this guy? There was a hint in there of him being unfaithful as well. But what do you guys make of this situation? What would you say to OP? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. And let's move on to another story. This next story comes from a throwaway account and it has a trigger warning on it of body shaming. So if you do want to skip it, please feel free to do so. Timestamps are always down in the description and along the timeline below. Thank you. It's titled, My 26 male girlfriend 24 female openly does not agree with my mum's 62 female choices. Am I unreasonable to break up with her over this? My girlfriend Rachel and I have been together for 8 months. We recently made a trip out west for a little over a week's vacation. Our last stop was paying a visit to my parents. This was the first time my girlfriend met them. We stayed over at their place for a couple of days before returning home. When we arrived at my parents' house, my mum said that she got our room ready and to go ahead and make ourselves at home and relax and go in the hot tub if we wanted. Rachel acted surprised and said something like, "You mean we get to stay in our own bedroom together? Wow, my parents would never allow that unless we're married." My mum laughed and said they were thinking of taking us out for dinner later tonight and if we would like to just let her know when we'd like to go. We did our own thing for a few hours, fooled around like sneaky teenagers do. I felt good about being back home with Rachel. We all drove together to the restaurant and chatted about what we did on vacation and reminisced about the neighborhood. At dinner, Rachel started talking about marriage and kids and said something like, "I have to have kids before I hit 30. It doesn't matter for you guys though, but we women can't procrastinate." It was a little awkward. I wasn't sure if Rachel was just nervous or didn't realize my parents had me when they were older or just didn't care. My parents didn't say much, but I know they weren't particularly impressed by Rachel. When we got back to our own room for the night, I asked Rachel why she brought that up and didn't she know that my mum had me older. She said she knew and that she doesn't agree with my mum's priorities and that my parents are too liberal. The next day, we returned back to the other coast. I love my parents and my mum is amazing. I love Rachel's frankness. I always found it refreshing, but she just came across tactless to me. I'm kind of bugged by Rachel's behavior. It's weird, but I feel like her not respecting my mum means she does not respect me. I think this is grounds for breaking up, but I'm not sure if I'm being irrational. Any advice or thoughts? A commenter says, "Oh my god, why are we allowed to stay in a room together?" Then falls around in your parents' home, sleeps in the same room with you, and says, "Geez OP, your parents are too liberal. Honestly, where does this girl get off?" Decult quotes saying, "My parents didn't say much, but I knew they weren't particularly impressed by Rachel," and then says, "I'm reasonably close to your parents in age, and I'm not particularly impressed either." Quoting again, she said she knew and that she doesn't agree with my mum's priorities, and then says, "Condemning another person's priorities from which one directly benefits, in this case, getting to sleep in the same room with you, is pretty much the definition of hypocrisy. Also, I find this judgmental to the point of arrogance, and a biological clock shtick is outright disrespectful. If you stay with Rachel, this is only going to get worse." OP mentioned in one part of that post about, he finds her frankness refreshing, and it kind of felt like one of those posts where, it's just the way they are kind of thing, they're just naturally an arsehole. It might not be the case, but it kind of felt like that way. But, Rachel's gone into this parents' house, slept in their bedroom with him, enjoyed their hospitality. The mum sounds absolutely wonderful for a Reddit story, right? And then during dinner turns around and basically says that she's made the wrong life choices. The mum, that is. And just going back to the whole refreshing thing, because I think there's a massive difference between, refreshing honesty and just having no social awareness whatsoever. And it just had me thinking, is this just a pattern of behavior? Is there, if he looks back through his relationship, is there other stuff that's happened that's similar to this? But OP comes in with an update and says, "Thank you all for the comments. I was pretty surprised by the volume. I was trying to downplay my concerns about the incidents at my parents'. I met up with Rachel at her place before maybe heading for dinner together. I let her know that I wanted to talk about what she said about my mum during vacation. I'm just going to provide a dialogue about what was exchanged to make it easier for me and hopefully less confusing. I said, I'm still trying to understand why you said what you said at dinner and why you're in such disagreement with my mum. She said, it's so weird how good looking your dad is still. He could have been a model when he was younger. Your mum is not anywhere in the same league as your dad. OP says, I don't understand what you're talking about. Rachel says, I think it's odd that they're together. It's creepy. OP says, my parents love each other. I don't get the problem you have. I think that you purposely brought up having kids earlier than my mum to criticize her. Rachel turns around and says, well, I don't like your mum. I don't have to like her. The rest of the conversation was more pulling teeth. I'd already given thought about what happened last weekend, and I guess I share a chapter or two from my parents' book. I want to feel confident about my partner. Rachel gives me doubt, not comfort. A lot of comments mention that I may have been oblivious, and what I initially perceived as frankness was likely always tactlessness. That I may have not noticed it was tactlessness because I was in agreement. I think these were factors, but I also didn't agree with Rachel always on her opinions. I just didn't disagree either. I broke up with Rachel last night. Her parting words were, a mama's boy is just plain ugly, and you're cursed with your mum's looks. Edit. So I rang my parents to let them know that I broke up with Rachel. I spoke with my dad first and he said, you made a good decision. She was dumber than a box of hair. Then I spoke with my mum and she asked why I ended it. I told her that she was too irrational and contradictory. She wasn't convinced that was the entire reason, so I told her everything since she has a pretty thick skin. She had a real good laugh and said that Rachel's just a mean girl and she's glad that it didn't take me longer than 8 months to work that one out. And she also told my dad that he still got it. D-Colt says, mentioning her parting words about a mama's boy is just plain ugly, and it says, it so seldom happens that our life decisions are validated so immediately and unambiguously. Onward! Smith replies saying, that line is so much cringe I can barely stand it. She's trying to insult him in verse? What the fuck? Opie replied saying, hey, I thought so too. Actually, I've been laughing over it. I agree that her last words were a favor to me. I won't be second guessing this breakup. She sent me a bunch of texts today saying she didn't mean anything and to give her another chance to explain. I'm tired of how contradictory she is, and I don't feel obligated to listen to another explanation. She's already crossed the line of no return. Too bloody true. But what do you guys make of this situation? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below, and let's move on to another story. Now, our next story comes from Medical by 6059 from the Am I the Arsehole subreddit, and says, am I the asshole for telling my parents I'll do what I want when it comes to putting my name on my boyfriend's house? For context, I'm from an Indian family. A 24 female, live with my boyfriend 27 male of 1.5 years, and he has a mortgage. I've lived with him since May, 6 months. He's well made, earns buckets more than me, and never asks for more money to pay for things if he can help it. The deeds and the mortgage are in his name since he bought it, and I'm currently jobless as I got made redundant from the job I had, so I can't help out as much. I still pay 30 to 40% of the bills though, since it's only fair. I'm doing random jobs I can find. Pet sitting, selling on Vinted, and temp admin to keep my account from going empty because my entire savings of 45k since I was 17 years old are with my dad. He bought the house next door to put on rent, and the property is going in his will for me and my 2 siblings. I thought it was a good future investment since I get my 45k back with interest, which would put me at 50k and 1 1/3 houses to inherit since our family home goes solely to me, and the new house will be split between me and my 2 siblings. My dad never steered me wrong before, so I did it. Being jobless though is getting difficult. I've had arguments about money with my mum, barely getting 5k of it, which she said was her money she's given me. My spending habits, she forces me to show her my bank account bills, which she says I shouldn't be paying because it's not my house. Literally any money that leaves my account since I left, because the 45k was taken when I was with my parents and had a job. She said things like, I don't want you to have too much money, then spend it all. I don't know if I want to give your money back because of him. I gave you my 5k and now I'm struggling too. And similar things even though they owe me that damn money in the first place. The recent argument was about my name being on the title deeds of my boyfriend's house. We thought it'd be best to wait until marriage, but recently my boyfriend suggested when I get my 45k back, I could put some money in the house and get my name on the deed and the mortgage since I've been stressed, and my mum is high-strung about it. My parents both seem to think he's using me and manipulating me to try and lower his mortgage now, but I've worked in remortgaging as a caseworker. This is normal, isn't it? They hate that we have bought 2 cats. They think we're irresponsible. They don't like that I pay for the cat's food and he pays for the litter. They hate any money I spend here. My mum says it was all a mistake and I would never be spending so much if I was still at home. Now they're saying I should only put my name on the house, not the mortgage. That I shouldn't have to pay him or be on the mortgage. I think that's wrong, but now I'm starting to doubt myself. There's a commenter that said to OP that you should be looking to get a good job or you wouldn't be in this mess, and OP said I literally said I got made redundant and I did have a job when everything went down. I also said I'm taking temp jobs everywhere since I've had no luck with permanent ones. I'm trying. Commenter says, I don't see that your parents made one right call or comment in your whole text, and stop showing your bank statements. But I get that it's tricky. You want to accommodate because they keep that money hanging in the air so they can control you indirectly as a minimum, while they try to control you in practice as well. Opie says exactly. Thank you. I'm so afraid anything I say I do that they don't like will just make my money that they have to go poof since they started talking like this. There's always court and whatever to get it back if they do keep it, but no one ever wants to go to court or be cut off from family and all that drama. A commenter says, I'm assuming you live outside of the US. This post is kind of all over the map. You invested your savings, either voluntarily or non-voluntarily, in a rental property your father bought. Is the money actually invested in the property? Is your name also on the deed? Or did you loan your dad the money with his and your mum being on the deed? Did your siblings who will inherit equal share also invest? It sounds like you have a very sweet deal with your boyfriend. You're getting free housing and only paying 1/3 of the other living expenses. Now your greedy parents are trying to get your name on a deed to a home that you haven't contributed to with a man you've only been living with for 6 months. Seriously, that is not reasonable to ask. What your boyfriend is asking is more reasonable, though still not advisable given that you are not married or even engaged. You buy into co-owning the house and get your name on both the mortgage and the deed and start contributing to the monthly payments. Everyone sucks except your boyfriend. OP responds saying, yep, I live in the UK. The coerced money was labelled as a gift with the solicitors and is under my mum and dad's name, which pissed me off when I found out. My siblings are 17 and 14, so there is no investment from them. Genuinely, I have a great setup with my boyfriend and it's bugging me so much that they want me to just never trust him whether we're married or not. Thank you for the advice about the deeds and mortgage though, that's super helpful. Commenter says, curious, why will your siblings not get their share of the family home? Is the 45k you mentioned in pounds or dollars? That was an impressive amount for a 17-year-old either way. If the 45k was deemed a gift, then you really aren't going to be getting it back from your parents. Honestly, your parents don't sound like very honest or moral people, so I'd not be taking financial advice from them. Opie says, I was an only child at the time my parents wrote their wills, so I was the only one mentioned to inherit it. I asked them if they're going to change it for my siblings too, but they said it was too much hassle apparently. The 45k is in pounds and took from the age of 17 to 23 to save all of it because I started as an apprentice, so I didn't get much. I think you might be right. I don't want to get legal about things, if I even can with the circumstances, but I might have to. Commodore says, it's not much of a hassle to change a will, and given your parents' morals vis-a-vis stealing your savings, I wouldn't be at all surprised that they'd already changed the will or will change it if you don't obey their orders. A distant cousin paid her uncle's property taxes and insurance, and a few major home repairs since the $1 million plus property would be hers someday in his will. Except he was not being truthful and had changed the will years before, and when he died the property was divided between multiple nieces, nephews and great-nieces and nephews. Her share of the property was less than the amount she had given towards the taxes and improvements. Opie says, I wouldn't even be surprised at this point to be honest. I want to believe their obsession with pleasing the family will keep them from writing me out because I know for a fact that my gran would tear my mum a new one. One more commenter who comes in and says everyone sucks here. Your parents are super controlling and don't want to pay back what they borrowed from you. But you've only been with your boyfriend for 1.5 years and about to make a very ill-advised financial decision. You're being glamoured by what he earns. If he makes so much more than you, why would he stipulate using some of your 45k to put into the house before he's willing to put your name on the deed and before marriage? That is not a normal thing, and most likely what will happen is he'll dump you soon after you've spent your money in the expectation that it would be partly your house. If you have no signed agreements or anything, he can basically get your money, kick you to the curb and keep some ownership of his house. Your parents are jerks, but they're also not wrong, and that you agreeing to this plan with your boyfriend is a very bad idea. Opie responded saying, we talked a little about it and agreed we would get a deed of trust to cite the deed and mortgage, since I used to approve them when I was working remortgage, so I know exactly how to write them and put the terms in. His deposit on the house I wouldn't be able to touch, but anything after that would be split 50-50 and belong to me as well in the event of the house being sold. If we broke up, I would get a stake of the bills I paid and interest on top of the time I was there. So it was over 15 months later that OP came back into the post and said, hi all. I want to start by saying thank you to everyone who commented on my original post and opened my eyes. To cut to the chase, my boyfriend is now my fiance, and we're planning for our wedding in the next 2 or 3 years. Money, lol. I won't be putting my name on his deed until after we are married. You were all right, and I think I was just angry at my parents for tricking me, so I wanted to do something reckless. To clarify some misunderstanding in the original post, I'm from an Indian family and was raised to obey every command that comes from my parents, which is what made it difficult for me to stand up to them. I suffer with anxiety and depression, which I'm now medicated for and doing well, which is what made it even harder. I was sheltered, coddled, and didn't know how the world worked because I had no understanding of selfish and greedy people. The 45k that I lost was taken by my dad to buy the house next door to him and then rented out to my aunt who was being evicted from her flat at the time. I was told my name would be on the paperwork, but it wasn't. I've since grown a backbone, and my fiance has helped me demand some legal paperwork and contract of agreement for my dad to pay me back every penny with interest. I've already received a good chunk and it's going well. It's strained, but I think I have a bit more of my parents' respect now as well, since I put my foot down about my money. I should have it all back before our wedding, which is something I wrote in the contract since the money can be used in the wedding instead. Commenter says to OP, are excellent, so good to hear. If I might just ask, is it really necessary to wait up to 3 years to get married? No one has to have a huge expensive wedding, and just being married doesn't cost anything more than the cost of 2 people living together. OP says, thankfully my family doesn't expect a big Indian wedding, and I've grown up in the UK, so I have no interest either. To be honest, the 2 to 3 year mark is just an estimate. If we save money quickly enough, we'll just do it next year. We're just extra cautious people because the wedding will cost, the honeymoon will cost, and we still need money left after paying all that jazz. Commenter says, glad things are going well. My bet if you spend that money, your parents will repay you on your wedding. They're going to tell everyone they paid for your wedding. I hope he says knowing them, probably. Honestly though, I couldn't care less, as long as I get my wedding with a man I love. Luckily our relationship isn't too strained, so my mum still plans to pay for my dress. And most people on the back of this one just pointing out the growth that OP has done in these 15 months that happened, didn't rush into marriage, and she's standing up for herself against her parents at the same time. But what do you guys make of this situation? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. And just a huge thank you for being here today, getting involved in the stories. Your love, your support, your time, as always, is absolutely amazing. Thank you so much for being here, and hopefully I'm going to see you in the next one. Take care. And much love.